almost as satisfied. It is 22 before the hour at 1 o'clock, WABC chime time. I just got a call from Georgia. Now, this doesn't mean a heck of a lot, except for the fact that the other night I got a call from Indiana, and the whole thing is about one thing. The fact that there's something very strange about the Beatle Paul. The fact that the Beatle Paul may be dead. In Indiana University, for instance, at Bloomington, there are 30 students working on a research project indicating that the Beatle Paul might be dead. I talked to them last night for an hour and a half. As a DJ on the world's largest radio station, I felt it my business to listen to their claims. And they told me some things which shocked me. And I was up all night last night. And I promised myself that I would not say anything on WABC because I'm talking to 40 states right now. And there are a heck of a lot of people listening to this thing. And I'll surely get fired if I say anything unusual. But the fact is, folks, I've been fired anyhow. You will not hear my show after 2 weeks from now. It'll be off the air. And I'm not going to be cut now because it's 12:39 at night and there's nobody standing by to cut the switch. But I'm going to tell you the truth. These kids at Indiana University have mentioned something very strange about Paul. And I am going to give you the things that they have mentioned. And I hope that you will remember that I told you first, because you're going to hear about this. This is making the wire services. This is making all the local radio newscasts across the country. And I know what they're talking about. It seems that there's something strange that happened to the Beatle Paul. If you will look at the Sgt. Pepper's album, the first strange thing you'll notice is that on the cover, and this may or may not be true, there's a hand over his head, somebody's right hand. This is nothing spectacular. But then you will notice if you look to the right-hand side, there is the WMCA, which is our competition in those days. It's not now, but it was then. Welcomes the Beatles. WMCA, good guys, welcome the Beatles, right? On the other side of the Sgt. Pepper album. Okay. In the right hand of that doll is a car. The theory is that Paul the Beatle was killed or will be killed in a sports car. A white, perhaps, Corvette or something like that. I don't know what it is. But that's the doll on the front of the Sgt. Pepper's album. On the grave on the front of the Sgt. Pepper's album, there is a 4-string bass, which is the instrument that Paul plays. That's on the grave. It's a left-hand bass. And that is there. I want you to notice in the Magical Mystery Tour album, the numbers that really come out if you really get very, very high and look at the front of the album on some, mind-bending drug. There are numbers in the title of the album. I want you also to look at the inside pictures. The walrus is a pagan symbol of death, and the walrus is holding his right hand above Paul's head. Now, what does this mean? I want you also to notice in the Beatles albums, if you will take Strawberry Fields Forever and play it at 45 RPM, take the LP and play it at 45, you will distinctly hear the words, "I buried Paul," if you play it very high. If you take "I Am the Walrus," you will hear "Services for Billy." You will hear "Is He Really Dead?" And now I'm going to give you the very final thing, as I may well end my radio career. And I sure as hell hope I'm doing it on the top station in New York. And I am. If you will listen very carefully to Revolution number 9, take it and play it on a 2-track machine after you've recorded it on a 4-track machine. Play it backwards, and you will hear some very strange things. You will hear things like, "Is he dead?" You will hear some very unusual things about Paul the Beatle. And after 10 years in broadcasting, I have never felt so sure of a thing as I feel right now. But that there is something strange going on with the Beatles. And something particularly strange with reference to Paul. Why is he in a black suit with bare feet on the cover of Abbey Road? Do you know that's what they bury people in England? For instance, in Revolution number 9, you can hear the sound of flames. You can hear crackling. You can hear a car crash. You can hear distinctly, "Let me out." And the most shocking thing of all is, you can hear "Turn me on, dead man," if you happen to play it backwards. Now, folks, I have nothing to lose by telling you this. I'm sorry for the telephone girl There's only one girl on the switchboard tonight at ABC, and I feel sorry for her. But I had to say this, because my voice on ABC will be silenced within 2 weeks. But if you will listen to these songs, you will hear what I say. 15 before 1 o'clock, WABC chime time. Right now we have cloudy, windy, and mild for the forecast. Chance of showers, low in the 50s. Cloudy skies, 72 WABC degrees. Rolling Stones, 9.5 minutes before 1. WABC chime time, and the WABC operator can't handle all the calls. There are hundreds of them coming in. Well, I say to that, good. I'm glad the WABC operator can't handle all the calls. Maybe there should be more than one WABC operator. Here's Gary Puckett in the Union Gap at 9 before 1. WABC! 6.5 minutes before 1 on WABC Radio. And I suppose what I should do is say, wow. I take back what I said, but I'm not going to. If you tuned in late, I really said it. There is something strange going on about Paul of the Beatles. If you look at the Beatle albums. And I'd like you to be able to say that I told you first about it. There's a team of researchers out in Indiana University at Bloomington. About 30 kids working on this with me. And we spent a lot of time on the phone last night. And there's something very strange going on. You'll notice a right hand over Paul's head in every photograph since the Sgt. Pepper album. Notice the left-hand guitar on the grave. Notice the words in Strawberry Fields Forever. The words that say, I buried Paul. The words in I Am the Walrus. The words Services for Billy, Send Me My Body. And the words in Revolution number 9 on the double album, if you play it backwards after recording it. The fire, the screams. The phrase, let me out, help. If you analyze Day in the Life, if you analyze When I'm 64. I'm sorry I had to say it like this, but I mean, maybe someday it'll all come out. Maybe someday you'll think I was an idiot for saying it. But it happened, and I had to tell you about it. Roby Yonge in New York with All Night Music Power. We'll be right back after the news.
WABC, New York.
We were just talking to Beverly Peterson of New York at 3 minutes past 1, WABC chime time, and she says that she and her girlfriend saw Paul the Beatle not long ago in New York, within the past 2 weeks, across from, a mortuary on 85th Street and 2nd Avenue. They think it's the Cook place, and he was dressed in black, as he is on the Abbey Road cover, and in bare feet. Now, this is how they bury people in England. He's got a whole thing there. There is something strange going on about Paul of the Beatles, in case you tuned in late and we're trying to figure it out. It's 3.5 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock. WABC Most Music Time. This is Roby Yonge here in New York.
Try to see it my way, so I have to keep on talking till I can go on.
Beatles, 5.5 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock, WABC chime time. Apparently a lot of people have heard about the controversy that I am turning you on to about the Beatles. I'm getting calls from all over America, people who are listening tonight from New York. People have called. From Ithaca, I have a call now. And, like all over the place. Bloomington, Indiana, would you believe, has called. There is something strange going on about Paul of the Beatles. We'll learn more about it. It's 6 past 1 on WABC. This is Roby Yonge in New York, and the weather report has just been handed to me. It's raining like crazy. Wow. 72 WABC degrees.
Have a call to
Yeah, raining like crazy. In that case, with the rain.
Rainy day, it's a rainy day on WABC.
We just heard from Jerry Green in Ithaca, New York, at WVDR-FM. And he says that he's been getting calls, just like I have been, about the strange controversy about Paul of the Beatles, the whole death thing. If you missed it, I don't have time to tell you about it now. It'll develop later, okay? Right now, it's music time.
WABC. Power. Play free.
And this is by Three Dog Night, and it's called Easy to Be Hard. Music from here, music from off-Broadway on WABC Radio. Roby Yonge here in New York. 12 past the hour of 1 o'clock WABC Chime Time. Also, I already said Chime Time, from Jerry Green at WVBR-FM in Ithaca. If you take on the double album, if you take the cut between I'm So Tired and Blackbird, I am told, now I haven't checked this out myself, but I am told from another DJ that you will hear, if you play it at high volume, Paul is dead now, Paul is dead now. Miss him, miss him. Now, I don't know. Last night I stayed up until 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning talking to the kids at the university in Bloomington, Indiana, about the fact that are you right, are you wrong, is it really something? And then, like at 4 in the morning, I turned on my own hi-fi set and played these cuts at slow speed, and I heard something which made me, like, you hear the expression, turn your blood to ice, or something like that. It's very chilling when you hear things like, I buried Paul, and Paul is dead now, and turn me on, dead man. There's something very strange going on. It may be a promotion stunt, or it may be the real thing, or it may be the Beatles trying to tell us something. I don't know what it is, but I do know this. There is something there. All right? Roby Yonge in New York. Nice day today. 72 WABC degrees, and now it's raining. 13 past 1. Go. 77 Radio.
WABC.
Charlie?
Dennison, a men's club, your Route 22, Union, New Jersey, open.
15 past 1. Dennison is open now. Speaking to Ed Vane, is it? Ed Vane, at WUVT, University of Virginia. Is that correct, Ed? Virginia Tech. Where is that located, Ed? Blacksburg. Hello, Blacksburg, Virginia. About the Beatle controversy, he says they're doing a special program on it, and he wants to know all we know. All I know. All I know is that 2 weeks ago I called Capitol Records and ordered every Beatle album. And I bought a $450 hi-fi amplifier, and I sat home, and my engineers will attest to this, and I listened to the Beatle albums, and I played them backwards and forwards, and I played them at every speed. And on the Roby Yonge hi-fi set, we heard strange things, folks. We heard things like I Buried Paul, Services for Billy. We heard strange things when we played Revolution Number 9 backwards, and I want you to do that. I want you to get Revolution Number 9 and play it backwards. It's from the double album. The Beatles are trying to tell us something about Paul. I don't think it is an advertising promotion stunt. I really don't. And I'm backed up by college students, groups of people all over America who are calling in tonight. And folks, this is a live show. And they're saying the same thing. There is something very strange going on with the Beatles, with reference to Paul. Did you know that the walrus was a pagan symbol for death? Did you know that? Look it up. Do you see the right hand of the walrus on those pictures in the Magical Mystery Tour? Can you see numbers if you get really high on something or other in the title of the Magical Mystery Tour? Okay, work on that, all right? This is Dionne Warwick, and You've Lost that Loving Feeling. First done by the Righteous Brothers. It is 22 minutes before the hour of 2 o'clock. And we just heard from Rutgers University, once again, Dennis Sluka. On the Sgt. Pepper album of the Beatles, if you will look in the center page, you will find OPD. That is on Paul's arm, or the costume of the person who is portraying Paul. That may mean, officially pronounced dead. I am inclined to doubt that. I don't know what they do. We should ask Webb Kelly, our resident information expert, what they do on this. But that is some sort of a thing on the arm of Paul that may have something to do with it or not. Rutgers comes up with it and says, yes, they do. In the Day in the Life, in the Beatles, the lyrics, A Day in the Life. I saw the photograph. No one knew whether or not he was from the House of Lords. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I don't have the lyrics before me. He blew his mind out in a car. The theory is that Paul was killed in a car or will be killed in a car. And hadn't noticed the lights had changed, blah, blah, blah. And The fact, the reference to the House of Lords and Day in the Life now becomes clear after 3 or 4 years, after it's been out, 3 years I guess it is. Apparently, this means that since the Beatles were made honorary members of the OBE or OBC, what is it, Webb, when you become a member of the Order of the British Empire, says Mr. Kelly in the newsroom. That may have a reference to that. I don't know. It's very complicated. It may be an advertising stunt by the Beatles, but I don't really think it is. And we are uncovering it now, and you're hearing it here for the first time, and I'm taking time with it because I think it's important. Okay? All right. If you have anything important to say, call ABC in New York. But if you just want to comment, please don't, because Pat just called me. There's only one girl on the ABC telephone desk. She had 350 calls in 10 minutes. And there's only the one girl, and the digital counter counted the calls. And, they can't afford to put on more than one girl tonight. So cool it, unless you have really something to say. And if the lines are busy, call back later, okay? 20 minutes before 2. Moving right along, folks.
Roby Yonge. This is for you, class. 77 WABC.
That says if you can do anything to keep them from calling, do it. Rutgers University's come up with a whole new thing here on Glass Onion, the double album, right? Beatles double album a few months ago. Glass Onion, looking up at the tulips to see how the other half lives. I told you about the walrus. The walrus was Paul, the walrus symbol for death. The walrus is Paul. He and I are as close as can be. Put that together. And Rutgers says, looking up at tulips from, below the Glass Onion, is looking up from the grave to see how the other half lives. It all ties together if you listen to the lyrics. Or maybe it means nothing. It's up to you to decide. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just putting the whole thing out. Because I am not going to take responsibility for this. But I'm sure as heck going to tell you everything I know. After 10 years in radio, I know about, coming out on the air and saying things. I'm just trying to be neutral. So don't sue me. You have no chance. I've already checked it out with my attorney. Blood, sweat, and tears when I die. Wow. Blood, sweat, and tears, baby Clayton Thomas. When I die and when I'm gone, there'll be one child born to carry on in this world. Sort of transmigration scene there, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are with 72 WABC degree, 14 before 2 o'clock. And we're getting calls. I got a call from a guy in Patchogue, Long Island, said, and I've got long distance on the other line. We had 350 calls about 10 minutes ago. I don't know what they are now. Please don't call ABC New York unless you have something definite to say. Last night I found out about this Beatle thing at home. I discovered it, and I talked to a series of research people at the Indiana University in Bloomington, and I said, wow, I'm not going to say anything, I'll keep it to myself. But apparently other stations are about to pick it up, and people know about it, so why not, why not talk about it? My engineer tells me we've got calls coming in from Florida and Maine and the Midwest, so I really shouldn't talk too much now, but I will say this. We're onto something. We're onto either a very carefully thought-out promotion plot by the Beatles, or a death wish by Paul, or something very, very strange. If you tuned in late, listen to other stations. By now they should have picked it up. After I'm off the air, you'll hear about it. Something strange having to do with the Beatle Paul. But please remember you heard it here first in the middle of the night, okay? Please do me that favor, because I'm not going to be around that much longer. 12 and a half before 2. Roby Yonge here in New York with all my music power.
Roby Yonge.
Love it. 5 minutes past 2 o'clock in WABC's All-Night Music Park. It's raining like cats and dogs out there. Very heavy if you're driving. Please take care. 72 WABC degrees. Les Marshak here, and, we've been getting some phone calls. The switchboard downstairs has been inundated regarding some speculating that Roby Yonge was doing earlier this morning regarding Paul McCartney. If you were listening, you're aware of it. But please be assured that those speculations are untrue. They are untrue. Please don't call, all right? Thank you from me and from the operator, too.